This is Dr. Thomas Klein coming to you from my usual place here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am the senior advisor for the National Pain Council that's looking into getting people who've been forced off pain medicine for their long-term painful illnesses get put back on and find out who is responsible. Nobody really suggested doing this and admits it, but there are people who are behind it. So today we want to focus on benzodiazepines. What are benzodiazepines? Benzodiazepines are old-fashioned tranquilizers. But in people in pain, which we find that a huge percentage also have spasms with their painful disease, it's an antispasmodic. It helps with the spasms, the muscle spasms that people have with these horrible diseases. It's also interesting that benzodiazepines and narcotics are brother and sister in anesthesia. So when you get anesthesia, they give you intravenous morphine and intravenous benzo called propanol. So the two are what we call synergistic. This means the two work together in order to make anesthesia work. I asked an anesthesiologist, I said, suppose you only had morphine, or suppose you only had the propanol. And he said it wouldn't work. You've got to have them both together. And that's because morphine takes away the pain, but it doesn't make you asleep. And propanol makes you asleep, anesthesia, and doesn't do anything about the pain. But the two work together beautifully. So the current problem is that people are being cut off. So first we have a little poll we did. We asked people if the two together worked well. 96% said, yep, it worked really well together. Now, the next question was, how many of you have been asked or forced off the benzodiazepine? 77%. 3/4 of people who took these two together as a prescribed regimen are being taken off and given the choice. You either get a pain medicine or you get your benzodiazepine muscle relaxant. Who decided that? Has that been circulated around? That people have to do that? No. People are afraid of the federal drug police who have adopted the CDC guidelines. And the CDC guidelines say don't use a benzodiazepine with opiates. And then they give some references which are phony. There is no logic or references that support the fact that benzodiazepines and opiates cause more problems. Except if you dig into the statistics about people with heroin addiction disease, they have on death benzodiazepines in their system. So says the CDC. What they don't say is they also have alcohol, antidepressants, and several other medicines, because the average person dying in the streets without health care has 5 drugs on board. So they just list benzodiazepines as being related, so it's occurring at the same time. And so what do we have? We got a problem with logic. Remember? The rooster crows before the sun rises, therefore the rooster causes the sun to rise. So if you're taking these two medicines together, and it's noticed that these two medicines together are present during the testing of autopsy, oh, it must have caused it. So there is no evidence that benzodiazepines increase the deaths in people taking prescription drugs, except one study out of the University of North Carolina by a fellow named Das Gupta, D-A-S-G-U-P-T-A, who is a well-thought-of researcher. But he said, if you were taking a benzodiazepine and you're a regular patient, you had 10 times more chance of dying than if you just took a pain medicine. He did not present any data. That's a no-no in science. You don't say that 10 times more people are dying from drug X and then you don't have any data. You just make this flat statement. He was on a CDC grant. So this is the kind of dishonest studies that are published. We're going to ask the journal that published it to retract it, because this is being used as you can only have your opiate or your pain medicine because you might die. Okay, I've asked around to 5 long-term pain doctors with over 100 years experience how many people had problems when they were taking both drugs. Nobody could think of any. That's a lot of patient years. So here is the stuff that we've accumulated for benzodiazepines. And we are going through this, and we are looking to see if the claims are true that if you take these two things together, you increase your chance of dying. So far, it looks like that's not true, but we are perfectly willing to change our minds because we're in the business putting the truth out there. It's also interesting that Dr. Das Gupta said later on in the article, see, nobody reads the whole articles. They look at the first part that says 10 times more people die when they have benzodiazepines. So he finally says, and he admits what the truth is. People on benzodiazepines and opiates are probably sicker. See, they don't talk about what these are being used for. They're being used for different diseases that people have. But no, just together. If they're together, then they've got to be causal. Together does not mean cause without proving it, and they have not proved it. So now we have a new tragedy. We have the worst public health crisis in the history of the United States. With 10 million, up to 10 million people with painful diseases, 7 million have been taken off. There's only 800,000 people with addiction disease. So the problem is 10 times larger, talking about 10 times. Only we don't get CDC grants. We just look at things and the teams go through every article and read the whole article. We don't just look at the abstracts. So I want to leave you with the fact that anybody who has any objections to what we say, here's our email. You just email us. We'll be happy to talk to you. We can defend everything that we're saying. And I would like you to hit the subscribe button and feel free to contact us. We are an open book. We talk to people and we listen to anything anybody has to say. So I want to say good night, and I will see you next time.